Hey, it's Jeremy from Jeremy.net. I am a comic book artist, writer, creator, self publisher, and I share my creative process with you here on the internet. If you'd like to support this channel, get additional bonus live streams, see comic book pages and artwork before anyone else, subscribe to my Patreon at patreon.com/GERIMI. If you'd like to see the best of my social media posts, the artwork that I share on Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, all of that, and you'd like to get it all in one place, delivered to your inbox once a month, you can go to newsletter.jeremy.net. Sign up for my newsletter. You also get a free bonus digital sketchbook. And if you would like to purchase physical copies of my comics, or if you'd like to read digitally on Amazon Kindle or Comixology, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. That will forward you to my Amazon author page. Okay, let's get started. So, I am working still on Morningstar issue 8, final issue of the series, and I have to tell you, I am not bored with working on Morningstar. I love this comic. I am enjoying making this comic, but I think that I am starting to get eager and antsy to start something new. I'm getting antsy to do some more illustration work and do some more standalone images. I think I'm getting antsy to start writing a new comic book that I'll eventually start working on and sharing here. But I think part of it is, I'm a little bit afraid you guys might be getting bored with this. So I'm not sure. It's not necessarily that I'm going to stop working on Morningstar. It is more a question of, am I going to start rushing a little bit? Because I do feel the urge to speed up the process and get closer to the end. Just to give you feedback, and for those who might be new to the channel, so Morningstar, it's Lucifer's Fall from Heaven, told as a Western. This final issue, I'm actually drawing digital layouts in Procreate of the these layouts I draw. I end up printing them out in blue line on Bristol board at 11 by 17 and then inking them traditionally. So my lettering process is digital, my layout process is digital, my thumbnails, my final inking are traditional. And this page right here, I can turn up the opacity just so you can see a little bit more of what I'm doing. But this is a moment, the page before, Lucifer and Michael actually shot their guns out of each other's hands, and then Lucifer, who's in the middle tier, is rubbing his hand, which is kind of sore, and then pulls out a sword, and now Lucifer and the Archangel Michael are going to go head-to-head and hand-to-hand final combat. So this is sort of leading into the final climactic battle of the whole series. Hashtag spoilers. So I'm just going to work here and, I'll mention little odds and ends and decisions that I make as I go. And I'll try to keep an eye on the chat and just answer questions if anybody has anything they want to know about the process, or any illustration or creative questions they want to ask. I'll just answer those as I go. So part of my process here, and this is something that I just started doing relatively recently, is trying to draw my early rough pass, my layouts. I do them in 2 passes. I do like a super rough scribbly pass, and even that, instead of doing a super rough scribbly pass, I draw thumbnails for the whole series before I go into doing layouts. And I've recently taken to just scanning or taking photos of those thumbnails and then dropping them in here and drawing on top of them. So I figure that was one of the things in realizing I'm taking a long ass time. Why continue drawing the same thing 3 or 4 times over again, especially when I know I'm going to have to ink it? I see Gaming Artist is in the chat. Hey, how you doing? I am doing well, and thanks for stopping by and enjoying me here. But yeah, I've realized that on one hand, I like that process of drawing and redrawing because it allows me to refine the artwork. I've often said that it's not that I draw anything well. I'll draw a bad version, then a less bad version, and then a slightly less bad version, and then eventually I get to the point where I'm like, okay, this is publishable. So it's very much a work of process for me. Let's see. Negro Facetta said, Jake Parker inspired me to reskin your book and call it Night Star. It's a dog-eat-dog business we're in. Well, I don't want to get into the public drama there. It's crazy. I definitely am anti-plagiarism, and I'm a pro Alfonso Dunn. So yeah, for people who haven't been watching that controversy online, you guys can look it up for yourselves. I like to keep this channel and the content kind of internet controversy free. So I like to focus on what we're all doing with our own creative work and making cool stuff. Always trying to keep my eye on my side of the fence. Oh, but I will tell all of you guys, because Negro Frazetta just reminded me of it. I posted a video yesterday, not a live stream, but it was a pre-recorded video that I'm very, very proud of, and I'd like you guys all to check out. It should be in the my new uploads. A few weeks back, not a few weeks back, but a week ago, I had the great pleasure and honor of interviewing master figure artist and an art instructor, Carl Ganas. And I've mentioned him many times on my channel before, as I've studied with him at the Animation Guild. I've been taking class with him for several years, and I just reached out to him and asked him if he'd be willing to do an interview for my channel and just talk about figure drawing and art and teaching. And it was, for me, really, I just wanted to share with you guys just a tidbit of all of the great things I've learned from him, and why he's had such a great effect on me as a comic book creator, because I really do feel like studying figure drawing, specifically studying from the model, adds so much to the process. Like, I really have felt my comic creation growing by leaps and bounds through the classes I've been taking, and I just wanted to have a chance to sit down, chat with him about that and his whole educational process, his artistic journey, and share that with you in the hopes that maybe it'll awaken the same passion and love for figure drawing and studying it in you guys that it has in me. And maybe if you're just looking to improve your comic book work. More often than not, the main thing I see when people do ask me to look at their work is I can tell that they have not been drawing from the figure. And the way you can tell is just the proportions are off. There's a lack of sense of... when I say a lack of sense of anatomy, I don't mean that they draw every single muscle bulging and, like Byrne Hogarth, which, that was one of the Dynamic Anatomy book was one of the first art books I ever had. Art books I ever purchased. I still own it. But drawing from live models, male and female models, studying the nude human figure, changes your sense of what is and is not realistic in comics. And when I say realistic, I don't mean photorealism. I mean creating a sense of authenticity, building an authentic world, that the laws of physical, anatomy and proportion have a consistency to them. And drawing from the live figure gives you that. So I thought maybe having a conversation with a master draftsman who teaches such things might help shine a light on why this is so important and how you go about beginning to study such things. So I see in the chat, Gaming Artist asks, haven't been here in a while. How's the comic coming? Well, let's see. I am on page 24 of a 40-page issue. So it's coming well, but it's coming slower. And I think part of that is just I haven't had enough time to get into a rhythm. Like, I'm usually drawing 1 or 2 hours a day. And, I set up my whole process with the idea that I don't have as much time to draw as somebody who's making comics full-time. So, I've kind of adapted to just drawing, a little bit here, a little bit there, whenever time allows. But I've noticed recently a bit of a drop-off. And part of that drop-off might actually be the fact that I haven't been able to, in the time of coronavirus, I haven't been able to attend live figure drawing classes. So I also recently started doing some figure studies, timed figure studies from photo reference on my own, but it is not the same, you know. I am planning to sign up for another class that Cargonas is teaching this fall virtually online, and I think that that will probably help shake me out of a little bit of these visual doldrums. But for me, it's just one of those where normally I draw, erase, things not coming out right, I go get some reference, and eventually I work it out. And what's been happening more and more is just a lot of draw and erase, draw and erase. This could be better. I need more reference for this. Let me try this different pose. Oh, wait, I realized I put the gun in the wrong character's hand. Let me go back and redraw that panel. I don't want it to turn into like me whining. It's more that the process has just been taking longer. But it's because I want the final issue I want it to have the same level of quality, if not greater, than all the other issues that came before it. I want to finish on a high note. I don't want to just hack this issue out. So I've been going slow. I think that that's really it. I've been going slower because I want this last issue to stand up. I've often wondered. Actually, no, it's not even wondered. I do feel like artists get into their rhythm and improve as they go. When I did my first graphic novel, Eye of the Gods, I did something a little bit peculiar. What I did was I penciled the book in order. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. It's a 144-page comic. And when I got to the end, what I did was I started inking backwards. Now, part of this is also that I'm putting my hand up here because I'm looking at it for reference. This the hand that's right here, the free hand that's not holding the sword, I drew it like 3 times just now, and this just didn't look good. So I'm kind of looking at my hand in perspective and trying to get it at the position and angle that I want. But as I was saying about, it feels like this should be coming down a little bit. But anyway, with my first graphic novel, Eye of the Gods, when I got to the end, I started inking at page 144, then 143, and I was inking in reverse order so that the final page I inked was the first page. And the reason for that was simply that I knew I would get better at inking as I went along. I still lacked confidence in my inking, so I thought if I start at the end, by the time I got to the end of the book, I could tell that my penciling had gotten better. It got stronger, and a better sense of volume and structure. The artwork I feel like it's better at the end of the book. So I did my worst inking over the best pencils, and as I went as I went closer to the beginning of the book, I would develop skill in my inking, and I could use that skill to correct as many of the problems in the penciling as I could. And I can't say that it was either a success or a failure. To some degree, it definitely helped and made a difference, and to some degree, there's still places. I think that it's not necessarily failures, it's that there's still places that I'm not 100% happy with, and that, as you guys well know, is the curse of being an artist. You're never 100% happy with your work. Let me see here. And I think another thing I'm realizing right now, I shouldn't be putting muscles in there because Lucifer is wearing a coat, and you're not going to be able to see his muscles through his coat. It just looks weird, so I need to fix that. I need to fix both of these. Just make them more cylindrical. More like you're just looking through the tube of their coat sleeve. But you know, this thing about the issue taking longer, I look at it as the fact that I can see more mistakes now and I want to fix them earlier on. I look at that as a positive sign of my artistic evolution. I'm constantly trying to improve and grow. And it's one thing to just be trying to make a piece that's perfect and you're just taking forever. But for me, it's simply if I see a mistake and I have the ability to both identify it and fix it, then I should just fix it. So for me, a lot of this is I don't look at it as I'm procrastinating or I'm overworking it or aiming for perfection. I look at it as part of my artistic growth to simply say, all right, I see mistakes, I'm going to try and fix them. I mean, to a certain degree, there is a point where I have to say, all right, this page is as good as it's going to get, I need to move on. But if I see a mistake, I should at least take at least one pass at trying to make it better. And then I think once I get better at, like, if I see a mistake, if I catch it, fixing it, then it becomes how to fix these mistakes efficiently. And I mean, again, using reference and those sort of things are part and parcel of learning to be more efficient as an artist. But the first step is being able to identify your own mistakes and fix them. And then the next step is getting better at doing that quickly. And I'm in that stage where I see a lot of mistakes, but it still takes me a while to fix them. I'm looking at my hand again. But yeah. Blocking you guys. I'm not trying to hide from you guys. I switch from having a slightly up, kind of a curvy view of that hand, even though it's far away, having the hand coming at you, to more of like a down into the side. So I'm just, well, hell, you can see what I'm drawing. Yeah, that hand just still looks wonky and lumpy to me. And cut off, thin that line out up top, thin this line out. That's a little bit better. All right, that's coming along. Um, get his hat in here. I think because this is sort of a smaller full figure shot on this tier, I don't necessarily want to go super detailed with it in terms of their faces. I'm gonna keep them simple. Is this gonna be a full profile or a slight 3/4? I haven't decided yet. And these are the little things that I work out in the layout stage before going to inking. It's just little things like, it's the head angled straight on, it's a little bit angled to the sides, a little bit of a tilt. Like what's gonna give it that sense of character. So let's see. I see Amar in the chat. Said I didn't even know you were streaming today. Yeah, it's weird because I've had such an irregular schedule the past few weeks. I've done a few midweek live streams. I did a few guest spots on other people's live streams. I've been a little bit all over the map, so I'm trying to get back into my regular routine. And also, I haven't been doing. I only posted advance notice on Patreon a few like on Friday, And for a while, I was really good at being in the habit of letting people know like 2 weeks in advance. Like it used to be as soon as I finished this live stream, I would schedule the 2 week one. The one's gonna be in the next 2 weeks immediately, so people could just know that it's when it's coming. And over the past month, I think I fell out of what was a really good habit, and now I need to get back into it. But hey, yeah, glad you're here. Just kind of working away, crafting, refining. This is one of those things when you're drawing like small faces, is trying to keep it as limited, keep the details limited as possible. I'm wondering if Lucifer's head's a little small here. And he's going to have his hat covering it. That and that. It's interesting. I think I drew him just looking a little too young. Oh, Amar says, I saw your Ganas interview. I didn't know he worked in animation and worked with Glenn Keane. Yeah, well, that was one of the things I really enjoyed about that conversation I had with him. Was some of the stories he told. I've heard little bits here and there in conversations in class over the years, but he's led such an interesting life. Worked in so many interesting creative projects, working at different animation studios, and it was really nice to get to hear a lot of these conversations and share some of these stories with a larger audience. I mean, a lot of people don't know necessarily that in animation that frequently they'll bring in technical advisors to help them do some of the more challenging things that maybe the animators don't have the initial skill set or tools to do. Or rather, he can plus those skills. So I hope you enjoyed that interview. And like I said, I'm really proud of it, and I hope you guys will all go check that out. Let's see. Amar also says, yeah, you were doing that and fell off the wagon. I have to get back on my thumbnails. I'm weeks behind and almost out of content for my comic. I have at least 4 weeks of comic pages left and at least 10 weeks of comic book work left. Yeah, I mean, well, that's the challenge, I think, of having stuff on Webtoons or Tapas, is that people are looking for that weekly chapter hit. And I kept hoping that I would get faster the more I've been making artwork, and it could still happen, but it seems that as I improve in my craft, I get slower because like I said, I see more mistakes and I'm trying to take the time to fix them. And that time to fix them, hang on, what I'm doing here is I am just going to grab Lucifer's whole face. You know what? Let me undo this so you guys can see what I'm doing. There we go. I am grabbing Lucifer's whole face, and this is, again, one of the upsides of working digitally, is I'm just going to take his face, and I'm just going to shift it like that much. Now that means I'm going to have to adjust the hat, because his head is bigger now, which means the hat should be a little bit wider. But it's just one of those where I noticed the width of the skull looks a little bit shallow to me. I just want to pull it out just a little bit more. It's not even necessarily that the width of the head is shallow. It's that it feels like he doesn't have a very strong jaw. And mind you, his features are more angular than Michael's. Like, Michael has more of a Captain America build, whereas Lucifer, he's got a little bit more of a slender. He's more of a T'Challa build. muscular, angular, but kind of an animalistic. Actually, when I was originally doing sketches for him, I was trying to design it so that his face had a little bit of a, like his nose was a little bit pointed like a beak, and I wanted him to feel kind of hawk-like. But it's tough to combine those features with African features, since we tend to have broader, rounder noses. So, but there's people that have that shape. I mean, you can find literally almost any type of face shape in any type of ethnicity. It's just that some features are more unique in different ethnicities than others. And me just saying that reminds me that I need to pull this nose down just a little bit more. So he's got a broad nose, but it's just a little bit pointier than Michael's. All right, and I don't want to get any more detailed with his face than that. Let's see here. Amar said, I did, and even though I'm not familiar with the process you do based on his process, the interview with Ganas, he says, I did enjoy it. And even though I'm not familiar with the process you do based on his process, but it sounds like I do some of them already, but not in the scientific way he explained it. But I did understand a lot of what he was talking about in regards to the arts. I have an appreciation for the Renaissance art, and I long to do hyperrealism for a few projects as well. So I was thinking of getting some perspective, even as a critique, would be good to use. That's awesome. Well, hell, you're on the Patreon, so we can definitely share some art, give each other some feedback. That's what artists do, help each other out. I see Art of Reed is on the is in the chat. Thank you for showing up. How are you doing? Let's see here. At this point, what I need to do is figure out what are the details I need to finish this panel and stop myself from noodling. Because right now, I am in beginning noodling phase. And really all I need is to decide where I want to have Lucifer's wings. And do I want to have them just come out like this, almost like a flowing cape? Like that. Let's see how that goes. A lot of stuff in this stage, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to avoid tangents. Like I want to make sure that if I have this line that's coming in, that it's not coming parallel to this shoulder, and it's not hitting right at where the joint or where the break is between the upper arm and between the forearm and the upper arm. So it's like trying to place these things. These lines are going to be the breaks and the feathers. Trying to place them such that they don't create tangents. Because in a strange way, I think that I really don't know if I've heard someone else say this or whether it's something that's just in my subconscious. But I think even though we're constantly trying to fight to not create tangents, our eyes are drawn to to points of intersection between two forms. So when we're making lines, naturally, it's almost like we're drawn to those points and we start creating tangents subconsciously because it's almost like the tangent's a bullseye. And even though it's a bullseye that does not look good in the finished art. So we have to fight the urge to create tangents. And for those of you that don't necessarily know what I'm talking about, a tangent is simply just where two lines meet, like in geometry. For instance, if you look at this hat, where the brim is and where the top, body part of the hat meet, right here, that unto itself isn't a tangent. That's an intersection because it's two lines that are intersecting. But if I had, say, a building behind Lucifer and I had that building lining up with his hat, That's a tangent. A tangent is when two lines that should be overlapping are running into each other so that you can't tell which one is in front of each other. It makes things very confusing. So a lot of what I'm doing in this stage is me just trying to find those overlaps, those unattractive overlaps, and trying to fix them. Right there, trying to just make sure that this last line of feathers lines up. Although sometimes it's just easier to just leave a line out. I kind of want to, in a way, have Lucifer's wings, or the wing that we see back here, connect over his shoulder. But I think that the space in between his arm with the sword, his neckerchief, and his hat, like all of that is just too. Oh wait, I didn't even draw his dreads. I got him here. You really, I might as well just erase this neckerchief because his dreads are going to completely obscure that. And see, this is what I mean about catching mistakes. Like I said, I find a lot more of things that I'm like, oh wait, this is wrong. I just need to fix it. In this, it's a case of me forgetting part of the character design. A major part is that Lucifer has these big ass dreadlocks, and I just drew him without them. So I need to come in here and add his locks. A lot of times when I'm drawing Lucifer, I'm actually thinking of my buddy Vince Moore, who pops into the chat every now and then, because he has a beautiful mane of locks, and I try to channel that. So Vince, if you end up watching this in the replay, I'm thinking of you when I'm drawing Morning Star. Okay, anything more than that, and I'm gonna basically end up doing the same work twice that I would be doing when I'm inking. So Amar also mentioned, talking again about the Carl Ganas interview. He said his classes, I might think of taking his classes if just for the critique and not so much for the drawing. Well, I promise you, you will get a lot from both. I'm going to be taking the heads, hands, and feet class, so I'm already signed up for that one. He said, I think I just need to break a few screws on some problem areas for the figure and some other types of art. Does he do figure art? Does he just do figure art, or does he do painting classes as well? I don't think he's doing the painting classes virtually. He has done painting classes in the past, and from what I know, it's on again, off again. If there's a large demand for them and people constantly ask him for them, he'll add it into his schedule. And there's times when he's had them, and there's times when there weren't as many people signing up or showing up, and then he dropped them. But he only has time for so many classes along with his work teaching at animation studios. So I will tell you that he has a workshop that he does. He usually does weekend workshops throughout the year, and COVID-19 has thrown a big monkey wrench into that. But he has a great class on outdoor landscape sketching and painting. And that sounds like exactly the kind of stuff that you're talking about. I think that his figure classes are great, and you should definitely check those out. But I know you've been doing a lot of landscape studies and sketches, and when it is possible and permittable for him to start I'm not speaking for him, but I presume that when he's able to start teaching in-person classes again, that one of the things he'll start offering is that that outdoor drawing workshop. And I would recommend, much like me, he has a newsletter as well. So I would recommend going and going to his the figure drawing school website and signing up for the newsletter so you can find out when he's going to have those workshops available. I haven't done any of those in a while, and I can tell you that for the past like 2 or 3 years, every time he's had it, I keep saying I need to make time to go for this because I need that the same stuff that you're doing, those studies of landscapes, environments. I need that in my toolbox. I haven't been doing it, so same stuff that you're working on, I got to work on too. Oh, and Amar also says, I'm working on a He-Man fan art piece. So I'm hoping to see if I can get a Frazetta style painting done for that. That's impressive, and that's actually a great idea. Doing He-Man in a Frazetta style, it fits perfectly. He says I'll be look up some reference of Conan the Barbarian in a similar pose. As a matter of fact, I can do that now while I watch. Good timing. See, that's the kind of efficiency that a creative needs. You're like, well, you know what? I'm sitting here doing this. I can do a twofer. I actually need to go back and look at a certain page because I keep forgetting the pattern that I have Michael's pants ripped on. Okay, the knee is exposed on his left knee. Because the way that I designed this, Michael fell off of a cliff in the previous issue. His clothes got all tore up. And at this point now he's just running around almost Conan-like and just ripped up pants. And one of the things I decided was make it so that on his left pant leg, the pants are torn at the knee. And then on his right pant leg, the pants are torn on the thigh and the calf. So just, up. Because I wanted his clothes to be torn, but they're not going to necessarily, or it's unlikely they're going to be torn in parallel fashion so that the tears are in the same place. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. I mean, it could happen if they were on their knees when something happened, when they got wounded or hurt, or when their clothes got torn. But for me, I wanted to create a little bit of a sense of visual pattern, changing it up. And I need to... Again, this is the challenge. Clarification without noodling. Because it's so easy to noodle. So easy to noodle. In fact, I'd say that's one of the downsides of working digitally. I am very happy with this process, and I'm going to move into working more digitally in the future. But the noodling is so hard, or it's so easy to slip into that. A lot of times when I'm drawing, when I would be doing my layouts on vellum, see right here is another tangent. The space between like his torso coming down and intersecting with the knee, I have that line seems to be also intersecting with the tear in his pants. What I'm going to do is, even though it's taking a little bit of license with this, I'm going to erase that, and I'm going to try and construct it so that... And I'll come back and take a look at the chat in a sec. I see there's a few more comments. I just want to finish my thought on what I'm doing here. In terms of tangents, so what I want to do to fight the tangents that be, is put the beginning of the tear on one side of that line of the torso intersecting with the thigh, and then put the other tear on the other side, almost like he's got a band around his leg, but it's going to be a band of flesh. And then I'm going to come in here and make the edges jagged. So, and that's, I think, about all the detail, other than blocking in Michael's face and his wings. That's about all the detail this particular shot needs. See, Amar says, yeah, landscapes I'm weakest at, so I prefer to get landscape to the same level my figure drawing is. Says, I would love to get to the same level where I can create landscapes architecture for my head like I can with figures. I feel so bad I got that first thumbnail page done so quickly at the rate I completed it. I should already be done with the fixes in the painted comic. Yeah, extra tinkering is so easy with digital that you kind of have to leave it alone, then come back to it. And you can make a more decisive decision on the image. Yeah, it has definitely been a learning curve for me in that when I was working on Vellum, I achieved a balance in terms of I learned how little I could put down in my layout stage, and I was really trying to save as much of the drawing as possible for the inking stage, and just basically make it so that so I was giving the bare minimum at this stage, and focusing on structure and proportion and basic volumes, having it so the characters looked like they were existing in space. And now that I've switched to this new medium for the layout, it's recalibrating how much of that leaving things alone and doing as little as possible. And in a way, that's a little bit of that is kind of thrown off by the fact that this final issue is the first issue I'm doing the layouts digitally. All the other layouts I've been doing traditionally. So I had an opportunity over the course of 7 issues to see what I could leave out and how I could make my layouts leaner and leaner in terms of detail. And that's also a little bit disingenuous because, as I think I've shown you guys before, I publish a sketchbook of each issue when I finish my layouts, and it just has the layouts and the dialogue, so that you can read the whole story, but in a rough sketch version. So on one hand, my aim is to make the layouts as lean as possible in terms of detail. On the other hand, I'm also trying to make them have enough finish to them that it would be a worthwhile thing for a reader to read, to have at least enough art there in it that they're like, okay, this is a worthwhile read. I'm not just looking at stick figures with word balloons. So I don't want to say disingenuous is the wrong word, but let's say that there's a balance there. And while I aspire to being minimal in the layouts, I'm also kind of trying to play both sides of the fence. I'm trying to have my cake and eat it too. I think I want to have Michael's mouth open a little bit. So I'm going to just erase a little bit of this so I can drop his jaw down a hair. His teeth. Looks almost like he's wearing lipstick. I gotta go with the smaller brush here. And let's just use afro. I almost kind of draw it like he's wearing a beret. Actually, what I've been trying to do is make it sort of close cropped, like a smaller afro, and then put in two sort of irregular afro puffs growing out of it. Like he's got just an offbeat afro. When I originally started designing him, I was actually looking for Michael. I was looking at Jamie Foxx from specifically from Django, but I was trying to go for the look that he had when they first find him when Schultz first finds him and he's chained up and he's on the that slave chain. He's chained up and his hair is a little bit nappier and it's kind of like wilding out afro. And it's weird because I've changed the way I've drawn his fro throughout the course of the series. And that's something I need to get better at, is just designing. And I don't mean better in this one issue, but just as an artist, coming up with a consistent character design that I can consistently replicate. I don't really need to get in here and clean that up. A little bit of a top here. See, Amar says, based on the response to the sketch painting I do, I feel like the remaining 15 issues will be done in that way. We'll have more replay or more rereadability. Well, there is definitely something to be said for having very beautiful artwork to look at. People can go back and revisit the story, and they get all of these extra little nuggets of just enjoyment out of seeing the visuals, seeing things that details they didn't necessarily catch the first time they read it. So Michael's wings. Let's have one wing. And again, looking for tangents. This is one of those where going in right where these meet, this is so strong that the kneecap is so strong that it's actually not a negative to have this thinner line going right into there, and then just sort of continue it on the other side. And for this, I think instead of doing a tangent, we're fighting the tangent so much, I think what I'm going to do is just have a break between this line and that line, and just have sort of float behind. Simplify it a little bit. Always trying to simplify. Okay. random feather in there. It just feels like it needs it. And for some reason, whenever the characters are rushing around and fighting, I like to put just a few random feathers just floating around, like you're running through a chicken coop. Almost like in kung fu movies, or like old samurai films where you've got the leaves kind of blowing and floating around the characters. Let's see here. A little bigger eraser so I can carve out some space here to get that arm in front. See here. Amar also says, "I'm glad I spiced up those pages last week. Made posting this week's issue so easy. I think I will do the next 2 weeks tomorrow and spend most of tomorrow on thumbnailing." So I didn't remember how dark Vizetta's paintings were. When you mean dark, do you mean content or just in terms of a low key value as opposed to high key? And plus, that can also be, if it's about the value, like the key of the painting, that could also be the reproduction. Because I mean, I've definitely seen paintings where they looked very, very dark to me, and then I've seen like, more like when I got a chance to visit Italy and see paintings in museums there, paintings that I thought were very, very dark and moody. You see them in real life and be like, oh, they upped the contrast and intentionally tried to make it darker so it would make more of a graphic statement, and the real painting is not necessarily that dark, or quite the opposite. Like Caravaggio, some of his paintings really almost feel like there's just faces and shadows coming out of darkness, and the real hints, if you get close enough to it, you can see all of the form and volume in there, but he has it so subtle that if you just took a photo of it as is, you would lose all of that. And then when we see reproductions of Caravaggio's, I feel like they often go in and they tweak the they tweak it to make the they bring up some of the darker darks. They adjust the contrast and make those brighter, so that you can actually see some of the detail that just if you viewed it with your naked eye, you would miss. And Amar says, you can say the color and mood of the painting. What's funny is I know that Frazetta also did comic book work, but I've actually never taken the time to seek out his comic art. You would think, given that I draw a lot of dark and supernatural stuff, that I would be all over that, and I should be all over that. Only so many hours in the day, but I think I may need to put some of those hours towards going and reading some Frazetta comic book work. And just so you guys know, listening here or watching, we are at 54 minutes. So I'm gonna keep drawing here for a few more minutes, and then we'll probably wrap it up right at the top of the hour, unless somebody has very specific questions that they want to ask that might take me a few minutes to answer. I do feel like I want to rush to the inking stage, because I feel like that's the most exciting stage for me, and I think it's the most exciting stage for you guys to watch. but I gotta work all this out before I start inking. Because I have seen what happens when I draw a comic and I have not worked all the volumes out. It's not pretty. Well, really, it's not even about it being not pretty. It's just the book ends up taking twice as long because then I'm trying to fix a bunch of stuff in ink instead of fixing it digitally or with pencil. So, or I just publish a lackluster book, and I don't think you want that. And I know I don't want that. I don't want to be Jeremy the Hack. I mean, we're all self-conscious enough about our work already without intentionally letting things we know are crappy get through. So I'm going to erase a little bit of this. I'll draw this gun kind of fragmenting. One of the things I did, pardon me, I'm going to blow my nose. The curses of being human. One of the things I did, I'm going to switch cameras here real quick. One of the things I did when I was doing the thumbnails, I knew that there was going to be a shot of the characters' guns exploding, was I just went and found a few different exploded views of revolvers and then did some sketches of them to try and give myself a sense of what they were going to look like as they were coming apart in the characters' hands. Because I realized it would be pretty easy for a person watching to just read this as like, oh, their guns are glowing, or just, I don't know. Like, it not, much like I'm not necessarily explaining it clearly, I would very much want what I'm trying to describe visually to be clear, for people to understand what I'm trying to show. And I feel like being able to clearly see those guns come apart. Turn off some of these underlayers. Being able to see some of these, being able to see the gun physically coming apart, I think helps sell the story point, the story moment. And by the way, Amar, I don't know if you want to be able to jump in next week or just watch the replay, but I also scheduled the video for the patrons and on Patreon. The next art book study group, we're going to be drawing tigers. So I've got a few different art books that I'm looking at. The Drawing Animals with Jack Ham, The Art of Animal Drawing with Ken Holtgren, and the Joe Weatherly Guide to Drawing Animals. I'm going to have that on hand too. I think that's what I was originally planning to use, but I realized I've been leaning on that book a little bit hard lately, and I kind of want to bring in other artists that I've been to look at and to study from. So for those of you who don't know, the art book study group is just where I sit down with one of my art books, and I'm like, oh, here's some stuff that I don't know how to draw. Let me look at some instructional art materials and study from it. And I just basically, you guys look over my shoulder while I'm working. Maybe you guys work on your own studies. So it's like a study group. Hence, art book study group. And that is for patrons on Patreon if you are interested in taking part and joining in that. So that's going to be next Sunday on Patreon. And on that note, I will be on to more pages when next you see. The only thing that's left on this, just to give you a sense, is I'm pretty happy with the rough layouts for these 2 panels below, or for these 3 panels below. So all I have to do here is just draw in Lucifer's gun, his face, his hat, and then draw in his wings, and then for Michael, draw in his his hair and his face and his wings. And this page will be done. I'll move on to the next one. So let's see here. Amar says, are those holy revolvers or hellish 6-shooters? The one in Michael's hands is holy. The one in Lucifer's hand is hellish. Nice. I see what you did there. All right. So again, if you want to participate in the art book study group, if you want to see more behind the scenes artwork and process shops before anyone else, see my artwork as it's being created, you can go to patreon.com/GERIMI, sign up for a subscription there. And you're also supporting this channel, making these videos available for everyone else in the public. So greatly appreciated. Please do join and subscribe. You can sign up for my newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. You can get all of my, you can get the best of my social media posts throughout the month, all in one place, delivered right to your inbox. And you also get a free digital sketchbook from Morningstar when you sign up. And if you would like to buy physical copies of my comics, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net, and that's where you can pick up physical copies of Morningstar, Eye of the Gods. You can also read the Amazon Kindle and Comixology free digitally. I see Michael Hare just popped in. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Good to see you. It's a shame I'm just wrapping up. I wish I had known you were going to be in. I feel bad closing out right now, but this is pretty much the end of the cast. But hopefully I can catch you on the next one. Let's see here. And Amar says, I hope people don't get offended because I spell hell, H-E-I-L, in my comic universe. You know what? We live in a culture where people get offended about everything. But anyway, guys, I appreciate all of you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming, hanging out, spending time with me, your comments and feedback. You make this all worthwhile. I really appreciate it. I will hopefully see you guys again in 2 weeks. The next one. That's it for now. Go be creative.